One of the things we've done in this year's Basque Country Competitiveness Report is take a historical perspective and look back at the strategy in the Basque Country over the last 40 years. And the key feature of the strategy is it really is a long-term strategy that's built on itself progressively from the beginning of the 1980s when it was all about industrial restructuring and trying to restructure industry at a time when industrial policy in the rest of the world was not very fashionable, through into the 90s when the focus moved to efficiency, using clusters and cluster organisations to drive forward the efficiency of the industry here in the Basque Country. Later on into the 2000s a move into innovation, and most recently trying to diversify from that industrial base in a smart way in the context of the smart specialisation strategies that are being implemented across Europe. Now, if we look at that whole period of strategy, I think we can identify 5 really interesting lessons that are perhaps useful for other places that are looking to develop a long-term strategy for competitiveness. The first of those is to do with the orientation. The Basque strategy has never been about economic competitiveness on its own. It's been about combining economic development with social development and recognising the kind of mutually reinforcing pillars of economic and social progress that go together. And I think that's been a very important feature in terms of its overall orientation. Secondly, it's been very proactive. There have been moments when it's taken calculated risks, when it's looked to prioritise specific activities because there's been a conviction amongst both government and private sector this was something that was going to be important into the future and would support the development of industry. So prioritisation and proactiveness. Thirdly, the focus of the strategy has not been to start from scratch. It's been to build on what was already there, building from existing economic activities and trying to diversify them in different directions. The fourth key characteristic or lesson, I think, comes back to policy capabilities. And again, as part of the strategy, there's been a lot of concern with developing capabilities for doing industrial policy, not only within government, but also a sensibility around that policy in the private sector, in the university sector, and throughout the whole society. So there have been a kind of, if you like, a policy community built around this strategy, which has meant that it's been able to move forward in a much more consolidated way. And finally, the fifth lesson, I think, comes back to openness. The strategy has been open both on the inside in terms of involving different actors, participation of different groups within society, and perhaps even more importantly, open on the outside. It's had a very strong focus on internationalisation from a commercial perspective, but also it's pushed forward the idea that we can learn from and with other places. So policy learning in an international context has been again a really important feature that I think that we can learn from for taking forward regional competitive strategies into the future.